A horrifying video, seemingly of an unwilling teenage suicide bomber. It surfaced online. Uzbek national Jafar al-Tayyar, he was ordered to blow himself up in Syria by bearded jihadis patting him on the back. We have a small clip of this. Take a look at this young man.
İnşallah korkma uka. Sen inşallah hakkı üsttesen, arkanda Allah Teala var bro. Sen mahzun olmagan inşallah. Bismillah.
We see him in that armored vehicle rigged with explosives. You know, he's just a kid, tears streaming down his face. Seconds later, that armed vehicle actually blows up. It's disgusting, massive mushroom cloud. The fact that this teenage suicide bomber, you know, but prior to him going in, holding that one finger up, signaling that Allah is the highest. And he did this with militants loyal to Imam Bukhara Jamaat. It's a militant group in Syria, Syrian rebels belonging to a militant group, if you will. And disgusting to see this, and you talk about a perfect picture of what the problem is, what's going on. This young man captures that. You know, he was a migrant, joined this militant group from Uzbekistan, which used to be in the Russian Federation. So he traveled from there to Syria and became a suicide bomber, having second thoughts, crying, you know, being patted on the back by older jihadis, you know, telling him God knows what. But it's disgusting to see it, and to blow up part of a village like this, to thinking, it just paints such a picture about what's going on and what we're dealing with.
Like you mentioned, it's horrific to see, but I think that something that is important to draw out of this is the fact that because of the advance in technology, we have access for the first time to this, and the way we communicate and we share these images. I think that it's very important that it might change the way we perceive war and the horrors of war, and finally we see a face of these jihadis that, like you mentioned, their humanity is there. They go through this repent, they go through doubts, but nonetheless, they are engaged in terrorist activity, and you know, it's part of what you sign up. If you go and, like you mentioned, you join a military group, a terrorist group.
This is not a sympathetic thing for me. This is a suicide bomber we're talking about here. He happens to be a scared kid, but at the same time, you know, we talk about winning the hearts and minds. We've heard that mantra going on now for a few years. What about his heart and mind? Like, what happened? Like, that represents the face of this like no other. And this mission, I want to point out, this suicide mission, it was part of a larger attack that happened over the weekend. More than 200 rockets, 7 separate suicide bombs driven against the defensive Fua. And this was a propaganda piece. They released this. They wanted to make people afraid. All it did was highlight the shitstorm that's happening in Syria right now, really, really beautifully, and our U.S. involvement, like only being able to train 5 Syrian fighters successfully with all of the money that we've dumped into this problem. It's just unreal. It makes me sick.
It is, and it's like you mentioned, it's very, very angry to see that they share this information, they instill fear, but at the same time, the reality is that there's 7 million Syrian nationals that have been internally displaced by a conflict that it's fueled by the naive, you know, think process of these immigrant kids that come and get indoctrinated into violence, and they create more violence. And now we see, you know, over 12 million people displaced of their homes, either internally or in the rest of Europe and the world, because of actions and attacks like this. And it's something that we really need to, as a globe, try to stop.
The main force behind this assault were al-Qaeda Syrian affiliates al-Nusra, the al-Nusra Front, and this militia group, this militant group, has done a very effective job of recruiting young trainees, just like this boy, to do what he did. You know, that powerful propaganda and indoctrination message that they're spouting. They are winning the war. They are winning the hearts and minds. And honestly, nothing displays that more so than this young man.
I agree.
Anyway, we'd love to know what you think at home about this suicide bombing. Let us know what you think in the comments below. While you're at it, be sure to check out the rest of our channel. And of course, subscribe to the Lip TV for more.